Well, it may be February still, but we are talking about the Atlantic hurricane season. It starts in 100 days, and it could be a bad one this year. We explain why. So here we go. June 1st is just 100 days away. That's the official start of the Atlantic hurricane season, and you've probably seen some headlines. We're already getting a little concerned about what the season may bring. There's a couple reasons, two big ones. Really warm waters. The waters in the tropical origin areas of the Atlantic are already as warm as they should be in June or July, record warm levels. And we're heading into a La Nina phase, and that's significant because La Nina tends to bring more Atlantic activity. We'll explain why in a second, but take a look at a snapshot of August on average. We get about 5 named storms in an El Nino, but nearly 9 in a La Nina. So quite a significant increase and a 43% measurable increase in the intensity of those landfalling storms too. And damage that can be almost double. So when we look back at El Nino versus La Nina, it tends to create twice as much damage, 1.6 billion versus 800 million from those storms. So this changes the overall atmospheric pattern. We've been in a brief but intense El Nino, and almost all models have us heading into a La Nina phase as we head into the summer. And that can create more Atlantic hurricanes because it reduces vertical wind shear. Remember, shear is winds moving in different directions or the same direction at different speeds. And when you have a lot of shear, and that's typical in an El Nino year in the Atlantic, that can push out or spread out the energy of the storms versus low shear allows a very defined and intense hurricane to develop where you have a very defined eye wall, not a lot of interference from the atmosphere. So you want low shear, but we also have very warm waters, of course, to work with too. And this is just looking at a spaghetti plots of different storms from 1925 to 2005. And look at the difference between El Nino versus La Nina. You can see just by looking at it, much more active Atlantic season when we're looking at a La Nina phase. And this is looking at water temperature, surface temperature anomalies right now. Very warm waters. This is that area that we're talking about that's seeing June or July temperature levels already. So you combine a La Nina phase with reduced wind shear with very warm waters in the Atlantic, and you can create the setup for what potentially could be a very active season. Now, that doesn't mean that every storm hits the US. Could have a lot of intense storms that affect nobody, but it increases the probability of some intense storms. And it's been a weird season. We had a tropical storm off the coast of Brazil in the last couple of weeks. That's typically a pretty cold water area. So that tells you just how much heat is in the Atlantic and really global oceans. In fact, for this time of the year in that origin area, 2024 is off the charts record warm for those water temperatures off the coast of Africa into the tropical Atlantic. This is a year ago. Look at the difference. In fact, some below normal water temperatures compared to now. But even at the end or the peak of this last hurricane season, waters are warmer relative to normal now than they were back in August. So the setup is there, very warm, record warm waters, and potentially heading into a La Nina could be a very active Atlantic hurricane season.